You know, when people on YouTube have like a big announcement that they want to share and they like be all dramatic at the start of the video and they're like sighing and there's like, clips of them like rearranging where they are and like scratching their head and all of those things. I feel like I want to be really dramatic with this, but also I don't. I just want to really share openly. Welcome back to the On Air with Jamie podcast. I kind of want to start this episode also by saying that this is the episode that I never thought I would record, but that I know is going to be so powerful for you. There is so much impact and wisdom in what I have to share with you. And what's so weird is you're listening to this on or after the 27th of December. And I am recording this episode on the 9th of November. And normally I don't record that far in advance. I don't do too much batching or anything like that, but some really big things have come up for me and I want to record it in real time, and it will all make sense by the end of the episode. But I thought it would be really fun to share that like this isn't something that I've like meticulously planned out and like have the perfect thing to share with you or anything like that. I really wanted to capture everything in real time for you. I was listening into a mentor speak a few nights ago, and he was talking about how we all have this thing. We all have this thing that we know we need to do, or we know we need to let go of, or we need to change, or we need to shift from. We all have this one thing. And the reason that we don't just go and do that thing is because it feels hard and we have so much resistance to doing it. It feels scary. It feels out of our comfort zone. And our subconscious, of course, always wants to keep us safe and keep us in our comfort zone and not do anything that's too scary or too out there or might feel like it's putting us in some kind of like quote unquote danger, right? And so what this leads to is massive procrastination on the thing that you know you need to do. And it's usually the thing that you know is really going to change the game for you. Maybe it's letting go of a relationship or a hobby or a project that you've been working on. Or maybe it's actually going and pitching yourself and putting yourself out there more, or starting a podcast or starting a YouTube or something like that. We all have this thing that is sitting on our heart that we just know we need to do and we can't explain why. And yet we put it off and we find ways to do everything but that thing. And this is my story of that thing. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, and the reason that I have held off this episode and I'm not sharing it until the 27th of December, is because I want this to be the thing that you now contemplate on as you go into the new year. I want you to take the lessons that I have to share with you away from this, and I want you to really learn from this. I feel like I have to beat around the bush and it's so weird. Moral of the story, the 27th of December was just the perfect timing for this episode to come out so that you can really contemplate on it and go into the new year strong and ahead of the game. Now, let me actually explain instead of like fucking speaking in riddles. When I first launched this podcast, I actually wanted to be on YouTube. I've always felt drawn to YouTube and I can't explain it. When I first discovered this whole online world of business and social media, I used to tell people in my day job, my 9 to 5, whatever, that one day I was just going to quit and I was going to start a blog And they would see me traveling the world, sitting on the beach, writing my little blogs, and just like literally living my best life. And it's funny because the whole idea of like blogging, I actually tried that first and I hated it. I launched a blog in secret and I think I only put up like maybe 3 blogs, maybe 4 blogs. And I absolutely hated it. I hated writing. And it was then that I realized, like, why would I want to launch a blog? Like, where did this whole blog thing even come from? Because what I really wanted to do was launch a YouTube. I loved YouTube. I loved watching YouTube. I always watched YouTube from, high school right through. I always watched YouTube in some way, shape, or form. And it really hit me. I was like, I don't want to blog. I don't want to write. I want to speak. I want to record videos. I want to be on YouTube. That is going to be the thing that I do. And I could never explain it. I could never explain anything more than that, but I was just so drawn to it. And I actually went as far as recording on my laptop some videos that I had intended to post to YouTube. And I scripted them all out and I put so much effort into them. But when I started editing them and watching them back, I was just filled, riddled with doubt and anxiety and like this crippling fear of putting these videos out there. This was like before I even got into the mindset work, the recode work that I do now. So this was going back to like, the really scared version of me who didn't know herself, who had no power in her voice or anything like that. And so I deleted those videos. I decided that I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to be on YouTube because I just wasn't meant for it. I didn't think that I looked the way that I needed to look to be on YouTube. I didn't think that I spoke the way that I needed to speak in order to be on YouTube and have a successful channel. I knew nothing about video editing. I didn't have a fancy camera. I didn't have any of the things that I thought I needed in order to be successful on YouTube. And so I decided, well, I can talk and I have this free software on my laptop already called GarageBand. I'll just start a podcast. Like, that seems like the next thing to do. I didn't really have a desire to have a podcast, but it just felt like the next best thing. Like, I'm not confident enough to be on video. I'm not confident enough to be on YouTube, but a podcast I can do. That's easy. Nobody can see me. It's just, speaking through a microphone, being heard through earphones, AirPods, whatever you're listening to this on. That's easy. I can definitely do that. And if I'm really nervous, I can script it and nobody's going to see that I'm reading. They're not going to know that I'm reading on the other side of, the microphone. And so that's what I did. My podcast was born out of that energy. And it's so ironic just reflecting on that now, being like, the podcast was never the thing. YouTube was the thing. The podcast was always second best. And it was just the thing that I chose because I didn't feel like I was good enough to do the thing that I actually wanted to do. Now, what I want to say is obviously I have grown and evolved and changed so much. Like, I literally record all of these episodes now and they get posted to YouTube. So it's almost like I'm following through on the whole YouTube thing that I had intended in the first place. I don't have to script anything anymore. I can just sit and speak, and it's okay if I fumble on my words, and it's okay if I go off track, and it's okay if I fuck up. It doesn't matter anymore because I know that I'm so solid in myself and I'm so confident in myself now. And I know, like, I'm not scared to be on camera anymore. But still, despite all of the growth that I have, done, all of the growth that I've experienced in myself, the podcast has still been built off this foundation of, it was the second choice. When I sit and reflect on all the times that I've actually set goals for the podcast or like created new goals for the year or a new vision board or whatever, every time I came up with goals for the podcast and desires to grow the show, I had this inkling, this doubt, this like little like, is that really meant to be there? Is that really what you want? And I ignored it time and time and time again. I continued to ignore the niggles because I was like, no, this is like the thing, right? I have a podcast. I want it to grow, obviously, because otherwise, why would I have one? What is the point of a podcast if it's not growing and it's not evolving and you're not seeing any return on investment from it? Then I might as well not have a podcast if I'm not getting any of that. And so I've really been in this deep contemplation that was also fueled by my amazing podcast manager, Ebony. Shout out to her, because honestly, this show wouldn't be the half of what it is if I hadn't had her in my back pocket as my like massive cheerleader, doing all of the tech stuff, making these episodes like the standard that they are from a like, technical quality point of view. She does the music, she does the ads, she edits them, she literally does everything for me. And bringing her on was a massive game changer. And so a few days ago, she reached out to me. And what's so funny is that it's just the most divine timing. I knew this was coming and I cannot explain it to you. I literally have no words to explain this to you, but that it is just pure knowing, pure intuition, and pure divine timing. A few days ago, she reached out to me to say that she was taking a new direction in her career and that she needed to really contemplate on what she was taking with her into the new year, into 2024. And unfortunately, podcast management was not going to be one of the things that she took into the new year with her. And honestly, in that moment, I was like, I knew this was coming. Where a past version of me would have gone into full meltdown mode and like made it her problem and been like, oh my God, now I've got to find someone and it's this whole thing. What am I going to do? I can't edit the episodes myself. I don't know what I'm going to do. And it would just be this big stress mission. I was like, this is absolutely perfect divine timing. And this is the perfect time for me to really sit and decide, actually, what do I want to do? How do I want to take this forward? Do I want to find a new podcast manager? Do I want to try and take back over editing and producing the episodes myself? What do I really want from this? And it was literally that night that I sat on this coaching call with my mentor, Chris, and I listened to him speak about how we all have this thing. We all have this thing that we know we need to do, but we are avoiding it. And if we just tackled it head on, we would truly manifest. We would truly experience the time collapse. We would truly propel or be propelled forward towards the things that we actually desire. But because we're avoiding this thing, because we're doing everything else and making the journey so complicated, because we're avoiding this thing, we lose, or like not lose, because we never lose our ability to manifest, but we lose track of where we're at. And the journey takes longer than it needs to, and it feels harder than it needs to. And all of a sudden, it feels like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders when you actually could have just taken the path of least resistance and done that thing. And it was in that very moment that I realized that that thing for me was actually this podcast, and that I actually needed to let go of this show. Not because I don't love it, not because I'm not incredibly proud of every single episode I've put out, even the first few that were fully scripted and don't even sound like me anymore. Through every glow up, rebrand, upgrade, everything that I have given this show, I am so fucking proud. But the truth is that I have been building this on the energy of, I have to do this because I'm not good enough to do the thing that I actually want to do. And I know going into 2024, that is not the energy that I want to take anymore. This has been the vibe of so much in my business. This has been the vibe of everything in my business. When I haven't felt enough, when I haven't felt good enough, when I haven't felt like I could just show up and just do the thing and launch the programs or launch anything that I wanted, it's always been, oh, well, I have to just do this instead. I have to follow the rules. The past year for me has been honestly, hands down, the most transformational year to date. And I know that in order to actually take everything to the next level for me and to achieve the things that I really desire to achieve, the things that I know I was put here to achieve, I have to start following these nudges. Because right now, I really feel like a fraud. A few weeks ago, which for you was going to be nearly 2 months ago, I recorded an episode all around action and the different types of action. And the way that I take action is I follow the obvious next step. I do the intuitive thing. I tap into my vision and I ask, what is the next step? And when I got the nudge of it's the podcast, you need to let go of the podcast, I tried to do everything but. In that moment, I was like, no, it can't be the podcast. I can't let go of the podcast. I'll find a way to make it work. Even when I was like, okay, no, maybe I'll just shift my focus to YouTube, straight away I was like, oh, but I could still then rip the audio from the YouTube and still post them to the podcast. Like this attachment still to the thing that was always second best. And it is that attachment for me that is holding me back and is keeping me stuck at a level that I am ready to progress forward from. And so this right here is officially the last episode for now of the On Air with Jamie podcast. And it feels so weird because it's been such a journey. When I literally think back and like listen to the episodes, the first few that I put out, I don't even recognize myself. I don't recognize my voice, even like just the quality of the things that I was speaking about. I'm like, it just feels like so many like versions ago, so many things I've overcome since then. But I know that this is the obvious next step for me. And it would be so fucking out of integrity for me to record episode after episode after episode talking about all of the stuff that I talk about, talking about being confident and being embodied and, you know, manifestation and how to quantum leap and the type of action you should take and how you should always tap into your intuition because you always have the answer and you always know the answer, and then not go and do it myself. And it's so funny because when I was thinking about this, I literally got this image and it was like a thumbnail on YouTube and it had my face and then in big red writing, fraud, written across it. And that's not the first time I have had that image drop in. That image literally dropped in when I was partway through. I was doing like a mindset modality with another coach. And she was taking us into our subconscious mind and like uncovering big blocks and things that were in the way. And I was so shocked to get that image. That was about 2 or 3 years ago now. And I was like, wow, like where did that come from? This is like really feeding into this fear of success that I have and this imposter syndrome that I have, that I'm so scared of really putting myself out there because I'm scared of being labeled as a fraud. And that's how I interpreted it in that moment. And in that moment, that was perfect. But now what I realize is that image, that vision is because in myself, I feel like a fraud because I haven't always been in integrity and I haven't always been walking my talk. And that has been such a huge theme of this year of really uncovering the ways which I am out of integrity and the ways that I'm not walking my talk. And that is why I have to finish this podcast, because I want to show you that when you do follow the obvious next step, when you do the thing that is so fucking scary, that puts you so far out of your comfort zone that you can't explain why you need to do it. When you do that, it's like the butterfly effect. You set in motion this series of massive rearrangement in your life, in your world, in your universe. And this is the time collapse. This is the time collapse. This is the quantum leap. It's not all glitz and glam. It's very scary. And leaning into it feels so uncomfortable, especially when it's something that you've known for so long. I can sit down and I can effortlessly record these episodes for you, and it's comfortable and it's easy and it's simple. And I just know what to do. I can't even explain sometimes with my episodes. I sit down and it's just like this channel opens up and the flow comes through, and it's like you couldn't even stop me if I tried. But the truth is that despite all of that, I know that I'm not just meant for a podcast. And this has been reiterated to me time and time again. And this is the other thing that I really want to leave you with, and I really want you to sit with. Over the past few years, there have been so many synchronicities with this whole podcast versus YouTube thing. And time again, I have received the message, the download, whether it be directly from me or through other people, that I am meant to be on YouTube. I literally had a soul reading that I have spoken about so many times over the last 2 years on this show. And in that reading, she told me, you are not meant to have a podcast. You are meant to be on YouTube. You are meant to be seen, not just heard. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I was always drawn to YouTube. I can't believe it. This is the confirmation. I was so drawn to YouTube. I only launched a podcast because I didn't feel good enough for YouTube. And we had a whole entire conversation around that. And then what did I do? I put a few videos up on YouTube, I will say that. And then I did start, I'm going to cut myself some slack here because I did actually start to make some efforts. These episodes go to YouTube. I did post some videos to YouTube, but it hasn't been my focus. My focus has always been, first and foremost, this show. And so in that, I was ignoring the guidance. I was ignoring the intuitive nudges. I was ignoring the messages that I was getting. And I need to stop saying it's so funny because it's fucking not. But I've heard this narrative time and time again that the universe will send you like messages and send you hints, and then really start to be like, when you're ignoring it, it's going to stop just sending little like nudges, and all of a sudden it's going to send a fucking freight train to actually veer you in the direction that you're supposed to go. And I feel like this has been my freight train. And it's just so beautiful, the synchronicities that have unfolded just in how this has happened in itself. It took my podcast manager deciding that she really had to decide what she was taking into 2024, and this wouldn't be part of it, for me to go, hang on a minute, I actually need to do the same. And I've been ignoring it for far too long because I'm so attached to something that was always second best. And so the messages that I really want to leave you with, because this wasn't intended to always just be like a whole story about me, but I did think it was really powerful to share the journey and to share exactly how I got here, because I don't want you to be doing the same thing. I don't want you to be choosing the second best option because you don't feel good enough for the first option. Because in my world, that is no longer an option. That is no longer a standard that I'm willing to entertain. It is, I am here to do this thing, and I will accept no less. And I really want you to use the next few days to few weeks as we close out 2023 and we enter 2024 to really start reflecting on the things that you have been avoiding, that you know are going to change the game for you. Because I know that you have been playing into this same narrative that I have in one way, shape, or form. There is something right now that you know you need to do. And I want you to make sure that going into the new year, that you either let go of the thing and leave it in 2023, or you make it a priority in 2024 to do the fucking thing. This is the key to everything. This is the quantum leap. It is tapping into that knowing. It's listening to the messages, listening to the downloads, the wisdom that you have within you. Because I've said it once, like this should be on a fucking t-shirt by now. You actually have all the answers within you. You have all the wisdom, all of the knowledge. Everything you need is within you. And I want you to make 2024 the year that you lean in and you start to listen and you start to choose yourself, your guidance, your wisdom, your knowing, your intuition above all else, above the coaches, above the mentors, above the fucking online gurus, above me. You know yourself better than anyone else. And the thing is, it is time to really sit and have some radical self-honesty, because I can tell you right now that I've been lying to myself for so long. Every time I said I wanted to grow this podcast, every time I set a new download goal, every time I decided that I wanted to go on a rampage of inviting a whole heap of people onto my show, I have been lying to myself. And once you see it and once you know it, you can't unsee it and you can't unknow it. And the thing is that with this whole journey of the podcast, something that both myself and Ebony have been really racking our brains over is that we haven't seen the growth in this show that we would have expected to see with the production that we've put in, with the effort, with the energy, with the quality, with everything, right? So much goes on behind the scenes. I literally have like a whole Pinterest strategy to drive traffic to this and everything, right? And we have not been seeing the growth. And when you think about it in hindsight, when the energetics of this show was, I'm just going to start a podcast because I can do that, because I'm not good enough for the thing that I actually want to do, so I'll just do this instead. You want to talk about energetics and how people can feel that on the other side? This is what my whole show has been built over. So why would it grow? Why would it grow? And so I want you to really spend some time as well reflecting on the energetic foundations that you are building things off. Where are you saying yes to things that you should be saying no? Where are you doing things because you don't feel good enough to just actually do the fucking thing that you want to do? Because even though from the outside it looks a certain way, you know, it looks professional, it looks amazing, it looks like everything is going well, people can actually feel it underneath. And all you are doing by holding on to those things is holding yourself back from progressing forward to the next level. And so with that, I want to leave you. I actually still cannot believe that this is the final episode, but it's also not goodbye forever, because it is time for me to follow the thing that I always said I wanted to do, and that is to start creating video content for YouTube. So if you are already watching this on YouTube, I hope that you just learned some really amazing lessons, and stick around, hit that subscribe button, because in 2024, your girl is creating some mega, mega amazing videos. This is going to be like the place that I share all of the juice and I share all of the things we can have big, deep, in-depth conversations and go deep and do all of the things that I just love doing and love talking about. But if you're listening on the podcast, I won't be in your ears every week anymore. I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. Thank you for listening every week, for leaving reviews, for reaching out to me, for giving me your feedback. It's honestly been such a wild ride, and I invite you to join us over on YouTube. Come and watch the magic unfold. I really want to be the evidence and the expander for you, that when you truly step into the things that you just knew on your heart you were meant to do, that things shift and change like you would never, ever, ever believe. That is my goal. That is my intention. And I just want to be the proof and evidence that you actually get to have everything that you ever fucking wanted, and you don't have to go on this big, incredible journey of healing, fixing, and changing yourself and trying to become someone else. You get to be you and experience everything that you desire in this world. And if you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling scared, if you don't know how to take the leap, as always, this is the work that I specialize in. After I, listened to that call from my mentor and made the decision and then tried to back out of the decision, I literally did a recode, and it was about like just doing the thing, just planning the thing and doing the thing. That was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I did a recode. I shifted my resistance to letting go of the podcast. And now here we are. It's done. We're saying goodbye, and we're saying thank you, and we're saying I love you. And please join me on YouTube. And if you don't already, follow me on Instagram. That is where I will always be. And truthfully, I don't even know how to finish. So I feel like I should just do the favorite thing that I have to do. And that is to like finish on a high and then just press stop recording and just be like, boom, like mic drop, we're done. So the wisdom that I want to finish on is, as we enter 2024, there are parts of you, there are things you are doing that cannot come with you into the new year. The universe is trying to illuminate these things to you, and it is time for you to open your eyes and listen. And then do the thing.